So, if you look at your workday right now, I'm willing to bet it looks, fundamentally different than it did just a few short years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Night and day.
Right. I mean, think about how you use AI on an average Tuesday. You're probably, I don't know, using it to draft documents or pulling up dense regulatory text to get a quick summary.
Or maybe feeding it a messy spreadsheet, right?
Aha.
Asking it to propose some kind of workflow improvement for your team.
Yeah, exactly. And the speed of reaching that initial draft is just staggering. What used to demand like 3 days of staring at a blank screen and wrestling with writer's block.
Oh, the absolute worst.
Right. Now it takes maybe 10 seconds. We have essentially eliminated the friction of generation almost entirely. But, well, this brings us to the mission of our deep dive today.
Yes, the big mystery.
Exactly. We are looking at a stack of sources today, primarily a core analytical document titled TR-02. It's called AI Can Answer, but the workplace cannot accept the answer as it is.
Such a great title.
It really is. And alongside that, we are looking at two advanced systems thinking models, the LMOS and MCP models. And we are using these sources to solve a very specific, honestly incredibly common workplace mystery.
Which is?
Why is it that even a perfectly good, logically sound AI-generated answer, just cannot be used directly in the workplace?
Yeah, to ground that question, let's visualize a restaurant.
Okay, I like food analogy.
Right. So AI has essentially given every company a world-class chef in the kitchen. A chef who can cook a Michelin star meal in 2 seconds flat.
So the generation of the product is flawless and instant.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
flawless. However, the restaurant has absolutely no waiters to carry the food from the kitchen to the tables in the dining room.
Oh, wow. So the food
It just piles up under the heat vents.
Yeah.
Yeah. The TR-02 document points out that AI is creating this exact scenario in the modern office right now. It is exposing the hidden architecture of how work actually functions beneath the surface. Well, when an AI produces a document, it produces something logically correct, right? But in a corporate environment, logic does not equal utility.
Right, because a document cannot simply pass through reality unchecked. I mean, it has an entire gauntlet to run before it becomes useful.
Exactly.
It has to navigate, administrative procedures, the weird formatting quirks, the managerial approvals.
Oh, the approvals alone.
Yeah. Plus, you have to consider sensitive client relationships or integrate the data into existing, often archaic software systems.
And you have to respect those very rigid, sort of unspoken responsibility boundaries between departments.
Right. I mean, the AI doesn't know that the accounting department requires budget proposals in a highly specific template,
No, it has no idea.
or that your primary client gets incredibly defensive if you use the word optimize in a pitch deck.
Because of that failed project 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The machine has no social context, which brings us to the actual sequence of work that the sources outline.
Let's unpack that.
So the true life cycle of a task is generation, followed by translation, verification, approval, and finally, connection.
Generation is just step one.
Exactly. And before AI became so ubiquitous, a single human being performed all of those steps, usually simultaneously inside their own head.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. The human mind naturally blended the generation of the idea with the adaptation of that idea to the institution. It was just one continuous embedded task.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because that is huge. So it isn't that the work is magically disappearing.
Not at all.
It's that we have taken a cognitive process that used to happen simultaneously in a single brain-like ideating the content and filtering it for the environment, and we've split it into two distinct physical steps.
Precisely. We outsource the ideation, the generation, to the machine. But the filtering, that institutional adaptation, is still sitting squarely on the human's desk.
Wow.
The sources actually refer to this as the phase separation of work. Processes that were completely hidden inside a continuous human workflow are now, well, they're separately visible.
And I'd imagine this detachment is causing a massive systemic shock to corporate infrastructure.
Oh, massive. And this is where the LMOS model becomes critical. LMOS stands for the Layered Model of Organizational Systems. It's a framework that treats a company like a complex software stack or, honestly, like a set of tectonic plates.
Okay, let's break down those layers, because the mechanics here explain so much of the burnout people are feeling right now.
Yeah, so the LMOS model divides the workplace into two primary layers. First, you have the narrative layer. This is where ideas, words, emails, and documents are generated.
And thanks to AI, this narrative layer is now moving at lightning speed.
It is practically instantaneous. But below that, you have the operational system layer, or the OS.
Okay.
This is the hard-coded reality of the company, the human decision-making mechanisms, the rigid compliance checks, the budget approvals, the actual physical constraints of implementation.
Right, and the OS layer is moving at its traditional biological bureaucratic speed. So when you have two tectonic plates sliding against each other at wildly different speeds, you get earthquakes, you get friction.
Right. And in systems engineering, they call that specific type of friction shear. The narrative layer is blazing fast, the operational layer is slow, and the structural integrity of the company is basically caught in the middle.
Caught right in that shear zone.
Yes, and caught right in that shear zone is the second step in our work sequence translation. Because generation and connection are now separated, translation is no longer an invisible cognitive habit.
It's a job.
It is a highly visible, highly demanded, mechanical bridge between the machine and reality.
So I want to make sure we define translation accurately for you listening, because I think it's easy to misunderstand. We are not talking about prompting the AI to reword a paragraph to sound more professional, right?
No, not at all.
Or adjusting the tone from casual to formal.
Right. Translation, at least in the context of the TR-02 document, means transforming an abstract, logically perfect AI output into a form that can actually connect to a highly specific, highly imperfect human institution.
It's about operational viability.
Exactly. Take public application documents, for instance. An AI can easily generate a flawless, persuasive essay for a municipal building permit.
Sure, in seconds.
Right. But the city's legacy software portal might require that data to be entered in a very specific, fragmented way across 30 different drop-down menus.
Oh, I've used those portals. They are a nightmare.
They're awful, and it might require historical context about the zoning laws that the AI simply doesn't have access to. So a human has to translate the perfect essay into the rigid bureaucratic form.
Contract revisions are another great example of this, actually. You can feed a proposed vendor contract into an AI, and it will spot every legal vulnerability in seconds.
So easily.
And it'll draft this watertight, incredibly aggressive revision that protects your company completely.
Right. And if you send that watertight, hyper-aggressive revision directly to a long-term vendor you've partnered with for a decade,
you will likely destroy the relationship.
Exactly. The translation layer is the human being who takes the AI's flawless legal logic and manually softens it. They negotiate the phrasing to preserve the social capital.
Because the AI doesn't know the vendor personally.
Right. The AI doesn't know that the vendor's CEO is currently going through a rough quarter and, really needs to feel like they secured a win in this negotiation.
But the human knows that.
Exactly. The human knows.
Let me challenge this premise for a second, though, because I look at the modern tech stack. We have Zapier, we have direct API integrations, we have specialized autonomous AI agents that can, say, read an email and automatically generate a Jira ticket or update a Salesforce record.
Yeah.
Technology is automating the formatting and the data entry. So why are the sources arguing that this translation layer still requires a human manually carrying the play? Aren't we building digital waiters?
That's a great question. Digital waiters can handle the format translation, absolutely. An API can move text from a document into a Salesforce field without a problem.
Right.
But an API cannot handle the institutional and social translation. As the TR-02 document argues, AI can automate the syntax of work, but it cannot automate the politics, or the relationships, or the exceptions.
Ah, I see.
An autonomous agent might be able to create a Jira ticket, but it cannot walk across the office, read the room, and realize the engineering team is completely underwater right now.
So it doesn't know that it needs to frame this ticket as a minor bug fix rather than a massive feature request.
Exactly. The human translation layer is about navigating the undocumented physics of a specific company.
Wow. That makes the engine and transmission analogy perfect. It's like AI gives you a flawless 1,000,000 horsepower engine. It's sitting there on the floor of your garage, just revving.
Ding away, yeah.
But translation is the process of building a custom transmission, the drive shaft, the axles, so the power actually connects to the wheels of your specific quirky organization.
Without the transmission, the engine just makes a lot of noise, generates a lot of heat, and the car goes nowhere.
Nowhere at all. But, this raises a massive operational problem. If translation is this complex, if we have to manually build a custom transmission every time the AI generates a new engine, isn't throwing AI at a team actually creating more work instead of less?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the data shows the answer depends entirely on the company's infrastructure. The TR-02 document explicitly contrasts two hypothetical organizations that purchase the exact same AI tools,
Okay.
and their productivity results end up wildly divergent.
Let's look at the mechanics of why. Let's say in the first scenario, company A buys the AI, drops it on everyone's desk, and expects an immediate, 50% boost in
Yep.
productivity.
They treat it like a magic wand.
Exactly.
And because they assume AI does the whole job, they don't build a path for the output.
Mm.
Suddenly, because generation is practically free, every employee is generating 10 times the amount of proposals, reports, emails.
And this causes a massive downstream traffic jam.
Huge. You suddenly have too few people available to verify all these AI outputs. The managerial approval processes completely fail to keep pace because a manager who used to review 5 proposals a week is now staring at 50.
Yeah, the managers become the bottleneck. They're just staring at a queue of exceptions that keeps growing. And honestly, I know professionals who admit they spend half their day repeatedly rewriting AI output by hand just to get it to pass through their company's internal compliance software.
Oh, I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Now, contrast that with Company B. Company B recognizes the phase separation of work. They understand that AI only handles the generation layer.
So they don't just hand out licenses.
Right. Instead of just doing that, they structurally redesign the path from generation to implementation. They intentionally build dedicated translation layers.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, it might mean updating their compliance rubrics so AI outputs can be verified asynchronously, or it might mean changing their approval systems from synchronous meetings to exception-based routing.
I see.
They alter the operational layer of the company to match the new speed of the narrative layer.
So they actually build the transmission.
Exactly.
Which brings up a really crucial distinction the sources make between meaning expansion and convergence decisions. Because when we use AI to brainstorm, we are doing meaning expansion.
Right, which the documents also refer to as support for unpacking. If you have a complex problem, say reorganizing a supply chain, the AI can organize the variables, unpack the constraints, and present you with 10 brilliant, logically sound alternatives for how to solve it.
Which feels incredibly productive in the moment. I mean, you look at your screen and you see 10 perfectly formatted strategic options. You feel like the work is basically done.
The illusion of completion is so strong.
Mm-hmm.
But presenting options is not a decision. A convergence decision, the human reality of making a final choice and implementing it, is incredibly costly.
Right.
The AI can give you 10 supply chain models, but it cannot absorb the exchange conditions of picking one.
Okay, let's break down exchange conditions, because that's the actual consequence of making a choice in the real world. If a company chooses supply chain model 3 from the AI's list, the AI doesn't have to deal with the fallout.
No, not at all. The exchange conditions are the structural realities. Like, if we pick Model 3, which department loses budget? Does the warehouse team in Ohio have to be laid off?
Does the IT department have to migrate databases over a holiday weekend to make the new software work?
Exactly. Which long-term vendor relationship is going to be strained? The AI does not absorb any of that risk. The AI draft is merely the starting line. It is a menu, not the meal.
I love that. A menu, not the meal.
The human being making the convergence decision has to absorb all of the organizational friction that choice creates.
So if a company like our hypothetical company A hasn't officially built a system to handle all this friction, right? If they haven't formally recognized the translation layer or updated their approval pipelines, the work still has to get done. The business still has to run.
Right.
So who is actually doing the translation?
Well, the burden falls entirely on what systems theorists call the informal absorbers. These are the individuals acting as the human buffer between the machine's output and the company's reality.
We are talking about the frontline staff, the middle managers who have to filter the deluge of AI-generated reports.
Exactly. The IT personnel who are constantly duct taping the integrations together just to keep the lights on.
Or the customer-facing workers who have to hop on a call to smooth things over because an AI-generated email sounded cold and alienating to a key client.
Yes, and the sources emphasize a really vital dynamic here. Visibility of the translation layer does not equal recognition of translation work.
Right, because the friction is highly visible to anyone paying attention. I mean, we can see the missed deadlines and the overflowing inboxes.
But because Reality Translator doesn't fit neatly into traditional HR job descriptions, this massive expenditure of human effort goes entirely unrecognized and uncompensated. It is essentially shadow labor.
That structural invisibility seems like a massive vulnerability. I mean, if you're relying on informal, unrecognized labor to bridge your technology gap, You are essentially running your company on borrowed time. The people acting as the shock absorbers are going to wear out.
They absolutely will.
Yeah.
And this is where we integrate the MCP model from our sources.
The membrane contact phase model.
Yes, exactly. It is a framework designed to measure the dynamic stability of complex systems. Specifically, how a system handles friction and stress at its boundaries.
Okay. Lay that out for us.
Think of a company, or even a specific department, as having a membrane-like a boundary layer that interacts with the outside world or with other departments.
Got it.
The contact phase is the exact moment an AI output hits that membrane.
So the frontline worker reading the AI-generated contract is the membrane.
Correct. The MCP model uses a metric called fluid stability to measure health. Fluid stability is basically the capacity of a membrane to absorb a shock, process it, and flexibly return to its original shape.
Like a healthy cell wall.
Exactly like that. But when an organization has high operational friction, meaning the membrane is being bombarded with endless disconnected AI outputs and low recovery capacity for the workers absorbing those outputs, the system loses its fluid stability.
And what happens then?
It enters a phase the model calls chronic depolarization.
Chronic depolarization. Let's explore the actual mechanics of that. What are the symptoms a company would experience when their system loses fluid stability?
Well, it doesn't look like a sudden dramatic collapse. That's the tricky part. The danger is much more insidious. The system doesn't just stop working one day.
So what does it look like?
Instead, you see incident response times stretch out. Cross-departmental service level agreements, or SLAs, they start consistently missing their targets.
Yeah.
The organization just becomes hyper-rigid.
Because the informal translators are operating without any buffer or recovery time, so they lose the capacity for creative problem solving.
Exactly. They simply start rejecting anything that doesn't fit a perfect template because they don't have the energy to translate it anymore. The company's culture becomes reactive and just deeply fatigued.
The workers burn out not from doing the core function of their jobs, but from the exhaustion of acting as the human transmission for the AI.
Yes.
They are spending all their energy just trying to get the engine connected to the wheels.
The foundational proposition of the MCP model is that health is not the absence of friction. Health is the structural ability to recover from it.
That is such a good point.
Care, downtime, and buffer space are not emotional concepts in this model. They are literal repolarization infrastructure.
Wow.
If you use AI to drastically speed up the narrative machinery of a company, you must intentionally engineer an equal increase in the capacity for human recovery. If you don't build that repolarization infrastructure, the system will just grind itself into a state of chronic fatigue.
I really want you to consider how this dynamic is playing out in your own life. When you log on tomorrow, look at the tasks taking up your time. When you interact with AI or, when you are untangling a mess created by someone else's AI-generated output, ask yourself, are you the one manually carrying the Michelin star food to the table?
That's a great question to ask.
Right. Are you the informal absorber buffering the machine's pure logic so it doesn't shatter your department's workflow? Because if you are performing incredibly complex, vital work, even if there isn't a billing code for it yet.
The ultimate synthesis of TR-02, LMOS, and MCP is really a complete inversion of how we value work. In the AI era, the scarce capability is no longer the ability to produce answers.
No, because the financial and temporal cost of generating a logically correct answer is rapidly approaching zero.
The answer itself is a commodity. Anyone with a keyboard can generate the answer now. The truly rare, immensely valuable skill is the ability to transform those commodity answers into forms that can survive contact with reality. The ability to navigate the institutional friction, the unspoken human emotions, the operational constraints, and the legacy systems.
Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating prospect for the future of work. Everyone seems to think the ultimate future-proof career is going to be prompt engineer.
Oh, I know. You see it everywhere.
Right. But if AI continues to make the generation of answers cheaper and faster, the prompt won't be the hard part. The future-proof career might actually be reality translator.
I love that.
Someone who specializes entirely in the messy, unstructured, deeply human friction of making perfect machine logic function inside an imperfect human world.
Yes. The person who doesn't just cook the meal in 2 seconds,
Hmm.
but actually understands the layout of the dining room.
They know the moods of the guests.
Exactly. And they know how to serve the food so people can actually eat it. That is a role a machine cannot absorb because it requires being stubbornly, irreplaceably human.
So keep that in mind the next time you find yourself rewriting a flawless AI draft to make it work for your boss. You aren't wasting your time. You are doing the real work.